The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Today we're doing a Skype interview. It's a very special one too. My guest will be Carol Tobias, who is the president of the National Right to Life Committee, and we'll be talking about the upcoming presidential election. So I'll be right with you in a moment. Hello, this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page, and we have Carol Tobias on with us on Skype. She is the president of the National Right to Life Committee and is in Washington, D.C. So,
hey Patty, it's great to be on with you again.
I know. Thank you. So what's happening? The pro-abortion groups are putting millions of dollars into a few key U.S. Senate races. Why?
Well, groups like Planned Parenthood, the National Abortion Rights Action League, Emily's List, all want abortion to remain legal, and they want it legal for all 9 months of pregnancy with no limits whatsoever. They want our taxpayer dollars to be paying for abortion. So they have decided that in order to accomplish those goals, they need Hillary Clinton in the White House.
Oh.
But they also want to have control of the Senate, because the Senate is the body that will confirm appointments to the federal judge benches, to the Court of Appeals, to the federal judge, and certainly federal district courts, and then certainly to the Supreme Court. They also need the Senate to try to pass some legislation, although that means they would also have to work with the House of Representatives. But unfortunately, the pro-abortion groups have a lot of money, and they are using it to elect pro-abortion candidates, at least to try, in both the presidency and in the Senate.
So in the Senate, who are they trying to get in?
I think most people who follow the Senate elections or elections in general very closely would say that there are 7, probably 8 Senate seats that are going to be close and could determine who is in control of the Senate. Those would be Florida with Marco Rubio and Patrick Murphy. We've got North Carolina, New Hampshire, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Nevada, and Wisconsin.
And Indiana?
Pardon?
How about Indiana?
Indiana, of course. Todd Young and Evan Bayh are going to have a very close race. And we are, of course, concerned about that one because Todd Young is a pro-life candidate. Evan Bayh, not so much.
So, what is the role does Indiana really have? Is that the deciding vote, or?
It could very well be. Dan Coates was a wonderful pro-life senator. He decided to retire. If we lose that seat, that could make the difference in whether our next Senate Majority Leader is pro-life Mitch McConnell of Kentucky or pro-abortion Chuck Schumer of New York. Chuck Schumer is very much in the mold of no restrictions on abortion whatsoever at any time during pregnancy and wanting taxpayer dollars to pay for abortions.
You know, when I was growing up, we didn't think about abortions. We had unwed mothers' homes and helped the mothers and their babies. Now in the 60s they changed, and now everything goes. I mean, if you don't want a baby, you kill it. Is that There's no logic in that.
There is no logic in that. And unfortunately, we do have places in this country that will do third trimester abortions. So they are happening, and unfortunately, we have some candidates who are fine with that, and we've got a lot of groups with money pushing to elect those candidates.
Well, that's not right.
No, it isn't.
So, the National Right to Life Victory Fund, what's that?
The National Right to Life Victory Fund is an organization or a fund account that we set up. Donations from anybody in the country that would support the election of good pro-life candidates are, of course, welcome. We use the money to get out the vote, to contact pro-life people in various places, in various states, critical races, to let them know where the candidates stand on the abortion issue, and encouraging them to vote for the pro-life candidate. We've been doing, phone calls, mailings, some advertising, whatever we can, find ways to get that pro-life vote out for pro-life candidates.
So if anyone wanted to donate to National Right to Life, the Victory Fund, they go to your website?
Yes, NRL Victory Fund I think it's .org. It just pops up on my computer, so I haven't had to type that in. It could be .org. I think it's .org, or just NRLC.org. That is our main website for the National Right to Life Committee, where there will be some information about the candidates, and it will also include links to the NRL Victory Fund or the NRL PAC, which is our Political Action Committee. So we have a couple different funds and do work in the elections to help pro-life candidates.
How are the Senate races coming along now? Do you know?
They are all very tight. Marco Rubio is probably looking the best of the 8 states that I mentioned. The Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee actually pulled advertising out of Florida because they did not think that their candidate would be able to hold this one. But the rest of the races are pretty close. Wisconsin is maybe the one where people would say that Senator Ron Johnson, who is a pro-life senator, is probably the most vulnerable senator of those 8. And of course, the other states, New Hampshire, Nevada, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Missouri, they're all very close. And every pro-life voter in those states needs to get out and vote. So if your watchers, your listeners have family and relatives in those states, I would encourage them to contact them and encourage them to vote for the pro-life candidate, because those states really will make a big difference in what happens in our country for many years to come.
And if they want to make a donation, just go to your website. Now, I'm not going to mention any prices. We can donate anything for you. You use the
and any amount would be greatly appreciated, and I will tell you strongly that it will be used for the purpose it was given. We want to elect pro-life candidates, and we will put every dime that we can get into those races, and it will go to elect pro-life candidates.
Spot on. Listen, do you work with other pro-life organizations?
We have a lot of contact with other organizations. Probably where we work with them the most often is on legislation, because a lot of groups are interested in what's happening in Congress. And there are some great bills that are currently in the House, or they've passed the House but waiting action in the Senate. But the next Congress, if we have enough votes, we will have them working on the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act. We would have them working to pass a ban on abortions for babies who have developed to the point where they can feel pain. We would have a ban on the cruel dismemberment abortion procedure. Actions to say, or a bill to say that if you are in the medical field or have any kind of interaction with abortion and your conscience says that you cannot support or participate in an abortion, that you could not be penalized, you could not be fired. Conscience rights for many workers. There are just some really great bills in Congress, but unfortunately, we don't have a president right now who would be willing
Keeps
to
on
sign them.
vetoing it. Yeah. Oh man. And what would happen if Hillary does get, well, God forbid, what would happen if Hillary does get in? How will we defend ourselves and the babies?
Well, we know it would be very tough. The Supreme Court vacancy, because of the death of Antonin Scalia, has to be filled.
Yeah.
We have 3 judges who are close to or over 80 years of age. So the next president could possibly appoint 2, 3, 4 Supreme Court justices. We know that every Supreme Court justice has an average term of 26 years.
Oh.
So if Hillary Clinton is our next president and she has a chance to appoint some justices to the court, she could make sure that abortion remains legal for many, many, many years to come, and millions more unborn babies will continue to die. Now, what we do is continue to fight. If she is elected, we put up the biggest fight we can so that she can't change some of our laws or like repeal the Hyde Amendment, which is something she wants to do. The Democratic Party platform this summer has called for the repeal of the Hyde Amendment, which is a 40-year law that has said taxpayer dollars will not be used to pay for abortion. We know that Hillary Clinton's health bill, when her husband was president, and she was in charge of coming up with the health care plan, it was actually nicknamed Hillary Care. She wanted to pay for all abortions and set up community health centers in every state, in almost every county, to provide for abortions. So Obamacare, which now does cover abortions through federal subsidies, could actually be made worse, in that more abortions would be covered and taxpayer dollars would flow even more freely than they do under the current plan. So we would have to fight very hard to make sure that she can't get those kinds of changes through Congress, that anything she does is met with strong public opposition. We, of course, would continue our educational efforts to make people understand that we're talking about a human being here, a little innocent unborn baby who needs our help and our protection. We would certainly continue the support in the pro-life community for pregnancy resource centers, so that a woman who is pregnant and isn't sure how she can handle the situation has somewhere that she can go for help, someone she can talk to, someone that will work with her and stay with her throughout the pregnancy. So there will be a lot that we can do, but I would just not rather have to face a President Clinton who is going to be fighting us tooth and nail every step of the way.
Will she try to stop pro-life agencies, organizations, doing what we're doing now? Is that what she would be trying to do, HHS and all that?
Well, we have seen several attacks from the abortion industry going after the pregnancy resource centers. In several states or in cities, they are trying to set limits so that when a woman goes to a pregnancy resource center for help, they would have to actually give her information about where she could get an abortion. In California, they have to tell her, give her the information. This is where you can go to get an abortion. And by the way, the state may actually pay for your abortion. So the abortion industry is very much trying to shut down the pregnancy centers, because every baby saved at one of the pregnancy centers is money that did not go to the abortion industry. So I believe those attacks would be ramped up under a President Clinton. Fortunately, in some jurisdictions, the judges have said that you cannot infringe on the free speech of a pregnancy center, telling them what they have to say, even though it goes against the purpose of their organization.
Right.
In California, though, we actually have a statewide law requiring pregnancy centers to tell women where they can get an abortion, that the state may pay for the abortion. And that has actually gone through several courts already. So this may end up before the Supreme Court.
What bugs
requiring
me?
pro-lifers to tell women how they can go about killing their babies. It's very sad.
Yes, it is frustrating too, eh?
Very frustrating.
Very frustrating.
Like I said, some judges have actually said, free speech rights, you can't require that of a pregnancy center. But I have a feeling that President Clinton would do everything she can to appoint judges who believe the opposite.
Yeah, you know what really sad is the mothers who have the abortions and how they react after the abortion. There'll be a lot of broken hearts and broken bodies, as well as dead babies. I mean, what's going to happen to all these women? How are we going to help them?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to too many women who were just so upset, crushed when they would look back and think about their involvement in that they killed their son or daughter. It's not just women, of course, men who cannot stop the killing of their unborn child. One elderly gentleman was talking to me, and he started crying as he was telling me that he and his wife 30 years earlier had gotten an abortion, and he said, if we hadn't done that, we might have a child and we would probably have grandchildren. But they were alone, and 30 years later, that was still haunting them because of the consequences. This just isn't good for women. It isn't good for our society.
We're not helping women at all, really.
No, it really doesn't. We've seen, studies will show increase in drug and alcohol abuse, increase in abusing other children. The suicide rates among women who have aborted are higher than among women who have not. It's a horrible consequence that doesn't end.
Well, that's sad. Do you help?
Except, I do want to say, women who have turned to Jesus and asked for His mercy find new life, and they are some of our strongest voices in the pro-life movement, encouraging other women not to make that same mistake.
Do you help the ladies with post-abortion help at all? I mean,
there are a lot of places that do help women who have had an abortion, and I would encourage someone to just go to their computer and Google post-abortion. They might want to add trauma or syndrome. There will be a lot of groups that pop up, like Rachel's Vineyard, Silent No More. A lot of local counselors may actually be in, but a lot of different groups do exist for the sole purpose of helping women, and as I said, also the fathers of the babies, maybe even grandparents or siblings of the baby, come to terms with that decision, and
closure.
Work with them to help them to accept what happened, and then of course move on with their lives.
To give them closure, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Still, they shouldn't have even had to go through that in the first place because of the law. I mean, the Supreme Court, who got those guys together in the first place, and since when did they give everybody their laws saying that we can kill the babies? Who started that many moons ago? 70s, 60s, what?
That started back in probably most of it was in the 60s. The groups like the National Abortion and Reproductive Rights Action League, which then changed their name to National Abortion Rights Action League, and then they decided that they didn't want to use the A word, so then they just called themselves NARAL, and now they are NARAL Pro-Choice America. So they've had several different name changes, but they were certainly very active back in the 60s, going into the state legislatures trying to change the laws. Planned Parenthood picked up on it then sometime in the early 70s, and actually the first abortion performed at a Planned Parenthood facility was in New York in 1970, where some abortions had been legalized. But it worked its way through several state legislatures where most of the laws were rejected, changes in laws were rejected because our state legislators were still protecting unborn babies. But it took a court case going up to the Supreme Court where 7 of them decided that they know better than legislators elected by the people in 50 states. So they passed one national law to say abortion was going to be allowed in all 50 states. And as Donald Trump said in the last presidential debate, he will appoint pro-life judges, and Roe v. Wade, if overturned, would go back to the states. We would then have 50 state battles to fight,
Yeah.
but at least we would have a chance to change laws and protect unborn babies. As long as we have a Supreme Court that is still saying, we're not going to limit abortions and you can kill them at any time for any reason, our hands to some extent are, at least legally, are tied.
They remind me of child sacrificing, abortion.
It is. And there's a lot of money involved because it's expensive to kill your child. And the abortion industry is making a lot of money off of that baby.
It makes me cringe to know that people are killing their own babies. Something that's really precious and a gift from God. It's throwing God's gift right back into his face and killing the unborn and selling their body parts. And that's so gruesome. That's barbaric. Just as bad as ISIS.
We are created in God's image, and children are his favorite people.
Yes.
He loves the little children. And I do think that this is a particularly horrible affront to him to see what this wonderful country is doing to his children.
Well, Satan must be doing all this with the negativity, the abortions, the killings. So people who are not Christian in any denomination are the ones that are doing the killing. I can't believe that a real Christian like the Hillary's running mate, he says he's Roman Catholic, but he's not doing anything.
Tim Kaine is very proud and talks about his Catholic faith, but he's not practicing many of the beliefs of the church. There is no Catholic in the hierarchy, the bishops, the priests, who's going to say that his position is in line with the Catholic teaching. And quite frankly, I think Tim Kaine is a hypocrite.
Yes.
For talking about how much his faith means to him and then turning around and saying, but I'm okay with abortion and using taxpayer dollars to pay for those abortions.
I mean, there are some churches, quote, who say, well, abortion is right. Well, it's not right. It's not helping God in any way, especially when the children are born crippled or Down syndrome and that. They're precious, and they have the right to life.
Every child is precious, and I think there is the problem that if we start saying a child with Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or any other illness or disease that might be a problem throughout life, if it's better to kill those babies, then we are also sending that same message to someone who is here living on earth with us, and if they have a disability or become disabled at some point in their lives, that they would be better off dead.
That's not
and
right.
I certainly hope that is not the message that we are sending to people in our country who do have some disability or who do have extra struggles.
In other countries, they're doing that.
Oh, other countries are euthanizing, killing.
That's
people
not
with
right.
disabilities, people with problems.
No one is perfect, my friend. So why are we killing off people that we think were not perfect? So no one is perfect.
That's true. Nobody is perfect. We certainly are not.
So
I'm not.
I don't like the idea of having a perfect world. It just reminds me of the Nazis.
If no one should get to decide who lives and who dies, whose lives are, worthy and whose are not.
And you know something? People are saying, oh, animal rights are more important than the human rights. And that makes me cringe.
Well, they want to elevate animals to the same quality or standard that humans should have, or maybe what they want to do is lower humans so that we are considered to be equal with animals. And that's just
Darwinism.
not the way it works.
Yeah.
Humans are different. We are special.
So when voting time comes, pro-life, senators, congressmen, and all that, we need those people in our government.
We really do. If someone is not willing to protect our right to live, our right to life, they're not going to really care about our right to anything else.
Yes,
Our founding fathers said we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life comes first, because if we don't have that life, we really don't have any other rights.
I hope they don't.
And if our candidates are not willing to protect our right to life, then I'm not going to trust them with any other right, because it's too easy to take that away.
What our forefathers has written here in the United States, people are trying to change them.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Well, you know, it's time for me to say adieu. Thank you so much, Carol Tobias.
You're welcome, Patty. It was great to be on with you.
You're our blessing, and we love you, and we hope that people do vote for the right people for pro-life. So God bless you, girl.
Thank you so much. God bless you too.
Bye-bye, dear.
Bye.
Well, that was a half an hour with Carol Tobias. We had a very, very interesting conversation. So I hope you'll be able to vote for the right people. Please vote for our babies. Pro-life. There you go. I'll see you next week. Thank you, and God bless.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us all.